So let's get started. So we're going to be talking about hiking the John Muir Trail. And we'll be talking about where it is, a little bit of the history about it, description, some hints about planning a hike like this, and a lot about what it's like on the trail. So on the trail, water is something we want to talk about, and snow. And then we hiked Half Dome before we really hiked the trail, but I've stuck Half Dome at the end. Oops, we'll talk about Half Dome. And then we're just going to take a look at some great views. So the trail goes from Yosemite National Park down to Mount Whitney. Here's Fresno, here's San Francisco. We flew into Reno and got transportation from there. So that's about where it's located in California. Let's talk a little bit about history. By the way, this is a picture on Muir Pass. About every day you go over a pass that's 10 or 11,000 feet. And this hut was built by Sierra Club. So that's the Muir hut. And since we didn't stay overnight on top of the passes for reasons of getting a better night's sleep and stuff like that, but we did stop for a photo op. So Theodore Solomons had a vision in 1884 about building a trail like this. And his idea, he talked to John Muir about it, and the Sierra Club, who has their first club building up in Tuala Meadows in Yosemite, decided that they were going to do something about it. Well, Muir died, and the next day they began work on the John Muir Trail, and took quite a few years to complete it. Theodore Solomons, there's also a trail named after Theodore Solomons. It's Solomons Trail, and it parallels the John Muir Trail, only probably at a reduced altitude of about 4,000 feet. So it runs kind of the same way down west of the John Muir Trail. I don't know how traveled it is. I don't know how well the trail's marked or anything else, but you could Google that if you're worried about a lot of height. You could probably get a pretty hike on the Solomons Trail as well. So the trail starts in Yosemite at Happy Isles there in the valley, goes north a little bit to Almond Meadows, then turns around, heads south through various wildernesses in the Sierras, and then to Mount Whitney. As you can see, 211 miles. They say 140 miles totally remote. I felt a lot more remote than that most of the time. You're days away from being anywhere where you can get any help. Most of the trails above 8,000 feet, and with the passes at 9, 10, 10 and a half, 11,000 feet. So let's talk a little bit about planning. You got to get a permit. You got to get a wilderness permit from the park, and that can be a challenge. They're limited to about 25 or less per day now. That's about what it was when we hiked this. By the way, I hiked this 9 years ago when I was a young, strapping 65-year-old. And but apparently the permits back then were hard to get, and apparently they're more difficult now. I read online one place where they said 97% of the permits for the day people want to go are denied. Another one said 70 to 80%. We could not get a permit from Yosemite. Anytime we sent in a range of dates, they all got denied. We didn't have much of a window, and so we decided to start up at Tuolumne Meadows, where we get some walk-up permits. Most permits are only reserve, like at Yosemite, 20 a day. Up at Lyle Canyon, up at the Meadows, there are walk-ups available. And so we walked up the day before and got our wilderness pass. So that was pretty lucky. I'm not sure you can do that today. It sounds to me like there's a lot more people hiking this trail than when we did it 9 years ago. Your wilderness pass includes Half Dome if you want to do it. And there's lots online about everything you got to fill out to do your permit. At least you can do it online now. It doesn't cost much. So, by the way, when I paid for mine by credit card, somebody stole my credit card and they had flights on it. They had a bunch of camping gear from Kmart. I got it all erased, but somebody up there at the Meadows wasn't careful with my credit card number. Like I say, our route was we started up here in the north at Tuolumne Meadows, but we backtracked to Half Dome since we wanted to see Half Dome. Then we went back to Tuolumne, picked up our first supply, and then started south. For a number of various reasons that I'll kind of go through as we go, I got off down here somewhere at our last stop in Onion Valley, Independence, California. So I'll talk a little bit about that a little later on. My other two hiking partners went all the way. We flew to Reno, and one of my hiking partners' husbands was there at some kind of a golf match. So he picked us up in Reno and drove us to where we need to go. But there's a good local bus systems that run all through there. You can get a bus from Reno to Yosemite. You can get a bus from the valley up to Tuolumne Meadows if that's where you're going. And you can get buses back to the airport when you're done. I'll talk a little more about this. This is at Vermilion Valley Resort, one of the places where we took a 0 day, and they have a ferry that comes and picks you up from the trail and brings you back to the resort. Some resort, you'll see. There's few places for resupplies, you can imagine, since you're out in the middle of nowhere. We carried about 4 or 5 days supply, and then resupplied at Red Meadows, and we got 4 days there. Then our next resupply that was Vermilion Valley, and we had to pick up 10 days of resupply at that point because we were heading out way back into the sticks. So that was tough from there, carrying 10 days worth of food and stuff, and hitting all those passes. And then our plan was we got off at Independence for the final 6 days of resupply, and my hiking partners picked that up there. We mailed all of our stuff to these locations. You can find out online, and then guides how to do that, and everything worked out just fine. This is a picture of us at Red Meadows. We're still looking pretty fresh. We've only been on the trail a little while, but we'd completed Half Dome by then. So one bucket list down, and they had great grilled cheese sandwiches. This is on the boat. At Vermilion Valley Resort, you hike a few miles off the trail to a ferry point, and a ferry comes in once a day. The planning books will tell you when, and picks you up and takes you back to the resort. We had a 0 day there, and I think this was a picture of us all coming back. That's why we're all smiling. We didn't see a whole lot of people on the trail, but at places like this, we ran into quite a few. Some of these people were just hiking a bit of the John Muir Trail. Some of them were Pacific Coast Trail hikers that were doing the whole Pacific Coast Trail. And then you know, some like us. Other things to think about. Forget telephone. There isn't any. You can get GPS. I said before, most of the time you're way away from civilization. You're required to carry beer canisters, bear canisters, and they check for that. And we didn't have any bear problems thanks to everybody using bear canisters. If you don't know what that is, I've got some pictures of them later on. You can kind of look at them, but they're a little problem to carry. Sometimes they don't fit in your pack. And you gotta carry a lot of stuff. You gotta really pack them full. Not many chances to do laundry, but we could wash our stuff out and throw it outside our pack, and it was dry by the time we got there at night. One thing to think about is packing for the trip. Since you're flying out there, you can't, you got to be careful what you wear. I kind of flew out in some hiking gear, so I didn't have a lot of extra stuff. And I just had a real light duffel bag that I put my backpack in. That was my suitcase. But you can't, you can't get out there and get stuck carrying a lot of stuff you don't need. So you really need to pack light on the plane trip. Other advice is, this isn't the kind of trail to do by yourself. We had some trouble sometimes finding the trail. We had to spread out, look for footprints and that kind of stuff. We ran into the snow. We really had a lot of problems where we needed each other. And it's not the kind of hike to do by yourself. We met a woman that was hiking alone, and she hiked with us for a day or so. Then we kind of got ahead of her. Later on, camping somewhere, a guy came in, and he had one of those spot devices where every night you can set it up, and by satellite, you can send a message home saying, I'm safe, and here's where I am, that kind of stuff. He had come across her a day before, and she had fallen off the trail. Nobody could see her. Wasn't anybody around. He heard her calling, and went down, helped her, and used that spot to be able to get a helicopter in to pick her up. I don't know, who knows how long she'd have been there had he not come by and had a spot. Okay, let's look a little bit about the trail. You see all different kinds of signs. When you're close to civilization, you might see something like this. This is closer to Yosemite. If you're really lucky, you'll see one of these. Sometimes you'll see one of these and wonder how old it is and whether it's still good or not. But most of the time, you just see this. So you're just kind of following the footprints ahead. So that might be one good thing about more people doing the trail nowadays. Maybe the trail's a little easier to find. It's not hard to find until you get up above the tree line and the vegetation line, and you're just trying to pick around the rocks and see what you can see. This is earlier on our hike, I think. The early part. But see, this is what you face every day. Every day you're going over something like this. Beautiful lakes. You'll see other pictures. The sky at night is unbelievable. I remember when I was a kid, we could go lay in somebody's yard and look up and see the whole Milky Way. But you can really see it here. It's beautiful at night. This was, I think, probably coming down off a pass. I'm not exactly sure where that is. The passes we went on all had switchbacks. The day we came out of Vermilion Valley Resort with our 10 days of supply and our heavy packs, the first thing we hit, well, after about 5 miles, the first thing we hit was this wasn't even a pass, it was just a mountain we had to go over, and had 38 switchbacks because we counted. And there was a guy at Vermilion Valley Resort that he and his wife were going to start hiking from there, and he had a pack that must have weighed 90 pounds. And I don't think he ever made it over those 38 switchbacks. This is what you see when you get a little higher. You got some nice people, either trail maintenance people or some nice people that'll put rocks up there. Sometimes you'll find cairns, stacks of rocks somewhere that'll show you where to go. There were times, like I said, where we had to spread out and try to figure out which way to go. This was climbing up the top of Cloud's Rest. This was before we started the actual hike. We were going to Half Dome, and this was pretty neat up there. You'll see some other pictures from up there. So I'd really recommend, if you think about it, doing what we did. We, going to Tuolumne Meadows and then hiking back to Half Dome if you want. You can go up Cloud's Rest, stuff like that. That was a lot of fun. Typical campsites. You can see we have a campfire going here. We were restricted to campfires above, I don't know what it was, 6,000 or 8,000 feet. But now I see that no campfires are allowed at all anywhere along the John Muir Trail. This kind of shows you what the mornings are like. You know, everybody's dressed up pretty warm, but it would heat up nice in the day. If you look closer, you can see bear canisters. This is a short one. It's about, I don't know, 12 or 18 inches high. This is a larger one that's like 20, 24 inches. I couldn't fit all my stuff. I tested what I could fit in, you know, especially that 10-day resupply. And I need the larger one. So with the larger one, I had to take my larger pack and all that stuff, but I was able to stuff everything inside. But what you do when you get to camp is, you know, when you're ready to sleep at night, you pack everything in these plastic bear canisters, and they've got a screw on top. And you go 100 meters away and put them down somewhere. And then you got no problem. And like I say, I think there was one time where somebody heard that there was a bear circling our camp at night. But other than that, we didn't see any bears, and that was fine with me. By the way, if somebody needs to borrow this, I've still got it out in my shed. I don't think I'll be using it again, so let me know. Another campsite. Take lunch wherever you can. We'll be talking more about this white stuff later. But you can't take a bad picture up here, can you? It's so beautiful. That was me doing a quick wash there in Lake Tenaya. That was coming back from Half Dome before we started our actual trip. Once in a while, we'd meet a pack train like this. I guess they were taking supplies up to one of the High Sierra camps. They've got a couple High Sierra camps up there, kind of like dude ranch things, where people go up there and camp and get their food cooked for them. They go horseback and stuff like that. So we passed that group. This picture I love. Look at this kid. He is ready to go. He's got his glasses, he's got his hat, he's got his hiking sticks, he's got a backpack. He got everything. He was cute. This is at Red Meadows. One of the few big waterfalls we saw is right there at Red Meadows, which is not too far down the trail, maybe a week or so. They also had these distinct basalt pillars that you see a few places around the world. I know we saw one at Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. And I think maybe the Devil's Tower in Wyoming has something like this. But, you know, this basalt's formed by lava, and then when it cools, it breaks into pretty much 120-degree angles, I guess due to the chemical composition of the molecule. So it's kind of interesting. This was Vermilion Valley Resort, a sight for sore eyes. Outside laundry, can't beat that. I guess it doesn't rain much there. But that's me smiling at being able to actually wash my clothes. So let's talk a little bit about water. Getting a resupply of water is not a problem. Probably 2 or 3 times a day, we had to cross something like this, or like here, stop, take our boots off, put on some Crocs and wade across something. We went late July, early August, and there'd been late snows up there. And so all the creeks were running like crazy. So some of these are a little treacherous. Or like I say, you ran into them all the time. Some of them get pretty deep. I remember one place where we came and there was a sign. We were on the John Muir Trail, and there was a sign that said, because the water, the creek there looked like a river, and it was really fast current. And somebody had said, hey, we blazed a trail down this way that it gives you a better crossing. And thank God for that, because we went down that way and found a lot easier crossing to get across because the current was really swift. And sometimes those can be dangerous. You know, you got to pack and everything else, and you lose your footing, you can be in trouble. This was our first campsite out of Tuolumne Meadows. And you can see it's still nice and cold. And the first thing we had to do was hop in that creek and walk across that water. And it was cold. So that woke us up. Once in a while, you'd have a bridge. That was nice. Let's talk a little bit more about water. It certainly wasn't a problem getting, refreshing our water. I filtered everywhere, even though you think these mountain streams are okay. But my hiking partner right here, we stopped at one place and she said, "Oh, I just took water right out of that creek back there. It tasted so good." Well, right up current from that where she took her water was a dead deer laying in the water. So I guess she didn't taste it, but that's why we always filtered, even though we probably didn't have to. I remember before we got started, we were sitting at breakfast and some know-it-all was telling us about all the snow and blah, 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 and we shouldn't go and all this stuff. We didn't want to hear that after making all these plans and getting all the way out there. So we said, we can take it. The snow was a big problem for us. Sometimes we couldn't see any trail because maybe there hadn't been anybody in front of us. Sometimes we were in shorts because it was pretty warm, but thigh deep in snow. Sometimes it was slippery. We camped one night early. I guess it was Lake Virginia or someplace like that. Beautiful spot. And we got up the next morning and turned the wrong way and went down a very, very steep snow and ice thing, something like this. We got down to the bottom and realized we'd gone the wrong way and had a hell of a time getting back up. One of my partners is a real billy goat. She was able to get to the top and throw ropes down so she could pull up our packs. And then we can kind of get to the side of the ice where there was a few rocks and be able to climb back up. That cost us, 4 or 5 hours. Another time, again, billy goat would get ahead of us, and she'd be standing kind of at the top of the pass. Here's the way, but maybe there wasn't any trail. And so I can remember one time it was almost like free climbing, a very, very vertical thing in the snow, trying to get up a mountain with our packs on. Kind of scary. That was one of the things that when I finally got to a point where I'd done most of it, I kind of decided I'd had enough. But see, there's Billy Goat up there. So we always had her. And so she found the trail. So sometimes we could find the trail, sometimes we couldn't. And we had to just go, we knew where the pass was. You can see it up there. You can see the flag up there or whatever. We just had to kind of go where she blazed the trail for us. There's some more people up there. I guess that stopped the pass. But with everything else you have to deal with, this was just some added problems. This was pretty slick. But beautiful scenery, huh? See, somebody walked ahead of us there so we could tell where the trail was. But otherwise, you couldn't, you'd never be able to tell, covered with snow, where the trail was. And the window closes up here about mid-September. So you have probably 2.5 month window to go on, and that's it. All right, let's look at Half Dome. Here we are in Clouds Rest, looking down at Half Dome. So it was fun to go up here and look down and see people climbing it, but it was also made us a little more scared. Half Dome is considered probably one of the most dangerous hikes you can take in the United States. And that's kind of the path of how you go on it. So you got these cables, you just hold on to those and climb up about a 45-degree slope. You know, kind of lean back and stick your feet on the rocks so you don't slip and go up. You got about every 10 yards or so, you got a cross piece where you can stop. And that's good when people are coming down and you're going up or whatever, so people can pass each other. And it gives you a chance to catch a breath. But there's no place to really hook onto a safety line or anything. The day after we hiked this, a woman hiking Half Dome fell and died. It had rained that night. The rocks were slick, and she slipped, and there's nothing there to stop you. We left our packs down at the bottom and just took a little light pack, little day pack with some water and stuff to go up. It's about a quarter of a mile up this rock face. If you start at Yosemite, like a lot of people just come just to do this, it's a brutal 10, 12 mile, well, it's about 7 or 8 miles up from Yosemite to here, a brutal hike, very steep. And then they got to do this. So we had a little bit easier hike coming from the other way. And we spent the night close by, we camped and then did it that way. So this gives you kind of an idea about what it looks like. When we got back down, we looked up there and said, we're never going to do that again. Here we are at the top. There's El Capitan. Somebody took a selfie for us. Somebody took our picture. El Capitan again. This is look down into Yosemite Valley, you know, where everybody goes, the campgrounds and all the blah, blah, blah. So that's looking down into the valley there. Somebody took some duct tape and taped congrats there so you could go get a photo op. So that was nice. That's before we all headed down. Now, I wasn't about to go down forward. I just went down backwards, but I think she went down forward. I don't think I could have handled that. Let's look at just some beautiful views. Those are Cathedral Peaks. When the Sierra Club first started at Tuolumne Meadows, they would hike. There's a Cathedral Peaks hike here from Tuolumne Meadows. It could be like a day hike that goes by Cathedral Peaks. Beautiful. I think this is Lake Tenaya, which you drive by on your way up to the meadows. And then just various pictures. I don't know if I can recognize any of these spots. But this is what you're dealing with all day. Now, you know, we wondered about taking altitude sickness pills, but we really couldn't find anything that seemed like it did any good. None of us ever had any altitude sickness problems, but you certainly felt the altitude by running out of breath. So as you're clomping up those switchbacks, you get out of breath, and that's what you really feel. But no headaches or anything like that. A little moonrise. When the sun sets, it turns these mountains into gold. You have the most unbelievable, beautiful views just like this. We would camp along places like this. Sometimes, you know, you'd camp at a place like this where you really couldn't use any tent stakes. So you certainly have to have a, you know, I'd use them when I could, but you certainly have to have a tent that can stand by itself. Can't beat that view, can you? These are the types of passes you'd go over most at least once a day. And that's it.